Hello chess friends and welcome to Yazardov's chess channel and welcome to the Altibox Norway Chess tournament in 2020. We're now again in the round 6 and a very exciting game was played between Aryan Tari against Alireza Firouzja. Alireza Firouzja has now the opportunity to be the leader after 6 rounds if he wins now this game, because Magnus Carlsen won the game and Levon Aronian lost the game with the white pieces against Fabiano Caruana. So we have always to think about this fact that Alireza Firouzja is only 17 years old. Let's make a trip to the future and imagine how strong Alireza will be maybe in 5 years or something. He's already so strong, and I really want to get back again to this banter blitz session in which he really outplayed Magnus Carlsen in the finals. He had also a great result here against Magnus Carlsen. He drew the game in the classical time format. He had also a great game in the Armageddon game. He won really great games against Fabiano Caruana, against Levon Aronian with the black pieces, and he's really the Karokan god because he can play really this Karokan so good. And today he played again the Karokan against Aryan Tari, and it was really an incredible game. It's really like we're watching maybe this romantic era of chess, or maybe we're watching this Mikhail Tal era in chess, because I'm not sure who can really attack like Alireza Firouzja now these days. His style is simply different than Magnus Carlsen's, for instance, style. I really love to watch now Alireza Firouzja's games, and I always like to say I wish him really all of the best, because now he's 17 years old and many things can happen, but I hope that he can still really be motivated, that he can really make progress, that he can really try even harder, because he's already such a great grandmaster. But I think his limits are simply to be maybe one of the best chess players in history. So let's check out now the game. Aryan Tari opened with the move e4. We have c6, the Karokan again by Alireza, d4, d5, e takes d5, c takes d5. So we have the exchange variation. The exchange variation is sometimes very hard to play from black's perspective, because white is always this 1+ tempo, because we have of course now the opportunity to develop our minor pieces. Here bishop to d3, which is the normal idea. We want to fix the pawn structure in the center with the move c3 and build really an aggressive setup with bishop to d3, knight to f3, and this bishop aiming against the king side. So here knight to f6, we have c3, and now bishop to g4. This is a very provocative move by Alireza Firouzja. This is still main theory of the exchange variation of the Karokan, but we think about this position more. It's really a provocative move which creates now at least some kind of a tempo by the queen, and now queen to c7. So we have provoked at least a queen move, and we have now developed our queen on a very active square here on this diagonal. This diagonal will play now a very important role. So if you think that you could play maybe bishop to f4, it's not an option, because you could maybe try to get this b7 pawn, but then you get checkmated on c1. I really wanted to see what happened if you play, for instance, bishop to f4. So h3, bishop to d7. You could also retreat to h5 and try something like bishop to g6, but here Alireza plays a very interesting idea, bishop to d7. This bishop will, after e6, will be really weak, but Alireza builds this defensive setup. He wants to have this bishop to d7, e6, f7, d5, really compact position, and then he'll try a flank attack on the king side. So you cannot really sometimes include all of your pieces in the attack. Some of our pieces we need to use as defensive pieces in order to defend, but some other pieces then we can use much more actively in the attack. So here knight to f3, we have knight to c6, castling, and now e6. Rook to e1, and now bishop to d6 played by Alireza. Very nice move. He can play on this long diagonal, because okay, white built this setup in the beginning, this very active bishop on d3, but you see the natural square of the knight is always the square c3. So if the knight would have been on c3, then you could try the fork on the bishop and the queen. So I usually don't like when that happens to me, when I have to play this c3 d4 setup. As I said, I really would love to have my knights on this natural squares on f3 c3. Here you see now I'm pointing this out because I'm not such a great player that can punish really these weaknesses. I can play maybe a good game, but I cannot really see everything in chess like maybe Alireza can. And here I wanted to point out how he will punish this strategical and positional weaknesses in white's position. It's really incredible, because after bishop to g5 he simply castles. doesn't even care about this double pawn structure. If you take, this wasn't played in the game, bishop to f6, g takes f6 could happen, and see now black has really a dominant pawn center control. This position would be good if we would have castled queenside and would create maybe a flank attack here, but after kingside castling, both kings are on the same side, so it's really hard to attack it. So I don't, after something like knight to d2, maybe our idea in this position would be something like knight to e7 and maybe an e5 pawn breakthrough, then followed even with f5, really creating the central pawn storm. So that's why after the move bishop to g5 and castling, knight to d2 was played, and now knight to h5 played by Alireza Firouzja. That was a great preparation because he wants to occupy, of course, the weak f4 square. And you see now, when we placed our knight on f4, then you have the problems. You cannot kick it away with the potential g3, because in the beginning, Alireza Firouzja provoked this h3 move with the bishop to g4. That's what I meant in the beginning. That was a provocative move. So here now, after potential knight to f4, this knight will stay really for a long time on this very active square on f4. Queen to d1. You see Aryan Tari loses sort of a tempo. He has to get the queen back, and now f6. Bishop to e3. You see now, it's a compact position here of these minor pieces. It's not a problem about that, but it seems to me that from this point on, all of these white pieces are simply used as defensive pieces. They're simply used to defend somehow. And now, finally, Alireza gets this very active square. Bishop, knight to f4, bishop to f1, and now g5. If you play g3, this could be now an idea. Knight to g6 will happen, and still we have this knight on a very good square, as the knight could still continue to support our attack on a potential f4 square. So it's not a problem here, I think, this g3 move. So after move g5, you see how Alireza plays this game. He plays really straightforward, simply attacking chess. Great attack. c4. Now Aryan Tari has to make something on the queen side. He has to counter attack, and we have now king to h8, simply getting out of the attack. Rook to c1, and now rook to g8. Here Aryan Tari makes now, I think, his main mistake in the game. He took simply bishop to f4. Maybe a better idea is maybe to push the pawn on c5, simply kicking away the bishop with bishop to e7. Maybe try here a queenside attack with a3, b4, b5, and similar ideas. But he took this knight. Okay, this bishop was bad anyway, but you giving up the knight, the bishop for a knight, and now this bishop comes very active into the game. We have now b4. So Aryan Tari has made now also some progress, because first of all, this knight to b4 idea doesn't work. You get simply c takes d5, discover the attack on the queen. So that's why, again, Alireza Firouzja plays sort of a provocative move. He plays the move queen to d6. What he wants to do, he really wants to push white to push the pawns, because now after b5, okay, we have knight to e7, and now c5, okay, we have queen to c7. You kicked me away, but now the position on the queen side is a little bit static. We cannot really make something happen immediately. So still we're continuing our game with this very active diagonal, with opportunities maybe even to break the position with a potential e5 move, with h4, g5 attacking possibilities. So now you see, when we have solved all of our problems on the queen side, now it's a time to attack the king side. So g3. Here you can guess what Alireza does. Alireza never retreats. He plays simply g4. Simply straightforward attack. Again, g takes f4 is not an option, because g takes f3 will happen, and here queen to f4, queen to f3 is not a possibility, because you lose the knight on d2. So we will be forced to play something like knight to f3. But still, I think white has problems here, because this rook is control, of course, the GG file. We could also try in some occasions the e5 move, not immediately, but as a long-term plan, also attacking the weak h3 pawn. So many attacking possibilities here. The evaluation of the computer is winning for black. So after g4, here rook takes g4 was played, and now bishop to h3. Again, rook to g7, staying on this file. Very important move to never allow this pawn to take the bishop, and now king to h1. The king is now out of the range of the rook. You can guess what Alireza does. Does Alireza retreat? No, he doesn't. He plays simply e5. Again, straightforward move. If you try, for instance, like pardon me, he plays e5. If you try, for instance, something like bishop to d7, which was played in the game. Here queen to d7 is a possibility. Now we have also this checkmate threat, so taking the bishop is not an option here because you get checkmated queen to h3 and pardon me, queen to g2, and it's game over. So you see how Alireza prepares his tactics. After move queen to d7, we have knight to h2, and again Alireza doesn't retreat with the bishop. This bishop stayed on this square through the whole game. Incredible attack. Again, if you try g takes f4, you get a checkmate on g2. Here rook to g1, finally trying to compete with this rook on the g5, but now rook to g8. Again, Alireza doesn't retreat. Again, if you try g takes f4, then you get rook to g2. You cannot protect anymore this knight. If you take out the rook, then we simply create again checkmate. So queen to e2. Again, trying to get some kind of a defender in front of the king, because this is really a monster setup that Alireza has prepared here. And this is now really the skill of this young prodigy, because he simply uses now all of the pieces in the attack. Let's see what we have on Twitter. Probably Garry Kasparov. Okay, it's again Garry Kasparov. Democrats and Republicans. Okay, we're not going to talk about that. So after the move queen to e2, as I said, here we have the opportunity to include really all of our pieces in the game. And here e4 was played. So now we have locked really the position in the center. Now we can also use this square for a knight, and really this is a really tactical storm that Alireza has prepared here. All of the pieces are really included in the attack. Here, rook to c3, simply trying, as I said, to get another defender into the game, but now knight to f5. You see the harmony between the pieces. Knight takes e4, it was a desperate try because d takes e4, queen to e4, and now bishop takes g3. That was really our tactic that we have prepared. This is really the square that we have really battled for. Bishop takes g3. Finally, the bishop has been sacrificed. The bishop stayed really, I think, for 10-15 moves here on this particular square. Incredible attack by Alireza. We have rook to g2. Again, if you try here something like rook to g3, then we can simply take knight takes g3, and after queen takes rook takes g3, again we can simply trade off some more pieces. But now queen to g3, again threatening the checkmate, and you're forced to bring maybe the knight here on g4, but it's a lost game. We can simply take it out. So after the move bishop takes g3, rook to g2 was played by Aryan Tari, but now rook to e7. You see how now Alireza changed the direction of the attack. The queen has to move, and now here after rook to e8 in this position, Aryan Tari resigned. So let's see a possible continuation. If you, for instance, try to protect your back rank, then we can simply take bishop takes h2, rook to h2, but now queen to f3, and now rook to g2. It's a must move, but now we could try rook to g8, or even something like knight to h4. It's a lost game for white. And as I said, after the move rook to e8 in this position, Aryan Tari resigns. So incredible attack by Alireza Firouzja. Great performance with the black pieces in the Caro-Kann. Really straightforward attack. Although in some of these lines, if you put this PGN into an engine, it will show you some other suggested lines by the top engine. But I really love this style by Alireza. He's simply playing the attacking chess, which sometimes we miss in this top grandmaster level. I have to say it like this. We want to see such attractive games like Alireza is playing now. I wish him all of the best in the continuation of the tournament, because it will be now a tough battle between Alireza and Magnus Carlsen. So in the game that Alireza and Magnus will play, Alireza has the white pieces. We'll see what will happen. Still, he has good chances to be the winner, because he is now in front of Magnus Carlsen, and Magnus is the one who has to catch up with Alireza. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Great attack by the young prodigy. If you want to see more games from this tournament, check out my Altibox Norway Chess tournament link here. And if you want to see the best chess games of all time, check out my best chess games of all time series. And if you like my content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.